Shall I ask him the question, is that really true when he got the apartment? Did you sign for that apartment, Pete?
Madman that I am.
How long did that apartment last?
He's still got it.
Yeah, still
Oh,
there.
you still got
I'm
it?
a wonderful landlord, and he's a wonderful tenant.
Keith, you're looking healthy.
Yeah, surprising.
Yes.
Yes, I keep reading all these reports as to how I'm supposed to be sort of close to death.
It's Christmas 1975 in England, a holiday of contrasts and expectations for British rock giants. While Led Zeppelin came to a full stop after Robert Plant's near-fatal car accident, another money-making machine kept moving. 1975 was a busy year for The Who. The heavily publicized film adaptation of Tommy, The Who by Numbers, written by Pete Townsend from a place of creative burnout, and 3 solo albums from Daltrey, Entwistle, and the man of our story, Keith Moon. Two Sides of the Moon remains his only solo venture. 10 songs drifting between parody and sincerity. Some inspired, some bizarre. Keith even began to work on a follow-up that was never completed. And as this story unfolds, what first looked like 2 sides of the moon slowly reveals something troubling beneath the surface. The dark side of the moon.
Is Keith Moon still awake? Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, are you quite finished? Give me a nice queen anytime, especially in the bathroom.
October 1975 marked The Who's long-awaited comeback to the stage after more than a year away. The Rolling Stones were off the road, ELP was in vacation mode, and Deep Purple was busy in Asia. The UK, Europe, and North American markets were all theirs. Behind closed doors, they battled a lawsuit over unpaid royalties against their previous managers, but that didn't stop the band from rock and roll. The Who's By Numbers tour went in full force, with a tsunami of power chords, lead bass, and lead drums. A setlist that underlined their status as one of the heaviest bands in the business. Survivors to the 60s without losing their essence. Authentic madmen. Electrifying shows. They still had everything to say, and more. All while keeping a loosened up vibe on stage, just like the early days, where their previous Quadrophenia album left them exhausted with yet another rock opera, and their contemporaries drifting toward extravagant visuals and stage decor. The Who's By Numbers tour offered a working man's band back to the roots without flashy costumes. Let music do the talking. Playing to 76,000 fans at Michigan's Pontiac Silverdome was a historic milestone. They were still one of the biggest live bands on earth. Throughout the tour, Keith Moon's drumming excelled, playing every show like his life depended on it. Moon didn't need a dedicated drum solo spot like the other big names in the business. The whole concert was one giant drum solo, and he got away with it. While his solo album 2 Sides of the Moon didn't chart the way many expected, nobody really cared. His name in the history books was already set in stone.
This is probably one of the first times we've played it here. And, this is music from an album we did that was made into a film. It's a lot, bro.
Early 1976 began with Keith Moon attempting to quit alcohol cold turkey, but it didn't work. Seizures followed and he was taken to the hospital. They never fully stopped, coming back on and off for the rest of his life. Moon was interviewed about tax exile and said, quote, "How on earth can a professional man afford to work and live in Britain? He can't." Despite their best wishes, some past demons came back to haunt The Who as they returned to the US for the second leg of the tour.
We've got a little bit of a problem. Keith Moon is in very, very bad shape. Why do our tours always start like this? Keith Moon is really ill. He's got the flu, he is out of it. There's no way. We're going to sort out a way with the promoters that we'll come back probably the day after tomorrow. And we're going to, hopefully Keith will be better by then.
Moon pulled a miraculous recovery. The Who resumed their American run through March, playing venues like Madison Square Garden, an absolutely packed Anaheim Stadium, and 2 nights at Winterland Arena, a victorious stretch. They promised to return to America for a third time. Keith's bandmate Pete Townsend discovered he had tinnitus. Doctors told him there was no cure. That same year, The Who entered the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's loudest pop group, reaching levels of 120 decibels at 50 meters. They returned to the United States in August. 4 shows into the run, everything suddenly stopped. Keith was arrested after a drinking spree in Miami Beach. He allegedly trashed his hotel room and was sent to Hollywood Memorial Hospital in Florida for psychiatric evaluation. On August 23, 1976, Moon turned 30. Shortly after, he checked into a rehab clinic in Los Angeles. The Who embarked on the 4th leg of what would become their final US concerts with Keith Moon. These included 2 shows at the iconic Day on the Green in Oakland. Performing to sold-out crowds at the County Coliseum now feels strangely symbolic of Led Zeppelin's path a year later, the last place California would ever witness Keith Moon's larger-than-life drumming, a lineup never to be repeated. The tour reached its final stage in Canada, with concluding dates in Edmonton, Winnipeg, and Toronto's Maple Leaf Gardens. Their final setlist carried strange clues into the future. The first ever live performance of Who Are You, long before its studio recording, followed by Won't Get Fooled Again. One song asking an existential question, the other warning about the illusion of change. The 78-day year-long journey was finally over. Moon stayed in California. Newspaper reports spoke of him building a house in Malibu and preparing to settle down for the second time. Keith announced his engagement to Swedish-born model Annette Walterlax, whom he had met years earlier in a London club. The wedding itself quickly became tabloid material. Reports claimed 3 former Beatles were expected to attend what newspapers described as one of rock and roll's biggest social events of the year. Then it was suddenly cancelled. Rumors spread everywhere. Family concerns, immigration problems. Keith offered a much simpler explanation. Quote, "We're too young to be married, so we decided to get engaged." The jokes were still there, the charm was still there. Unknowingly, Keith Moon had entered the final chapter of his life. He had 631 days left.
Happy
1977. The script flips. Led Zeppelin becomes the greatest live band of the year, while The Who retreat into personal projects. January 31st, Keith Moon attends the American Music Awards held at the Beverly Hilton Hotel, not as audience member but presenter. He steals the show with facial expressions, charisma, and flow. The role fit like a glove, a well-dressed entertainer. Unlike his British drumming peers like Ginger Baker and John Bonham, Keith Moon's crazy behavior was very visible to the press. It wasn't a secret behind closed doors. What you saw is what you got. He loved the attention on and off the stage. To an extent, he was the most recognizable character in The Who. At his core, a passionate musician with a huge heart. All this while battling attempts at sobriety. Change itself was knocking at his door. Los Angeles health professionals would come to know his name well through his many visits outside the world of rock and roll. Like Jimmy Page and Robert Plant during the writing of Presence in late 1975, Keith had embraced the Malibu lifestyle, living under the West Coast sun, California sunlight. It was only natural Moon would stop by one of Led Zeppelin's legendary 6-night shows at the Forum.
The best rock and roll drummer in the world living today, Mr. John Bonham. John Henry Bonham and Mr. Keith Moon. The Dynamic Loogies. I'm looking forward to coming back here with my backing group later on in the year.
Enter film director Jeff Stein, a devoted fan who convinced The Who to assemble a documentary project titled The Kids Are Alright. A collection of television appearances was compiled, and the band loved the results, but quickly realized many of their greatest songs had never been properly captured on film. So, they pulled a Song Remains the Same move, booking Shepperton Studios to recreate the power of their live performances. Unlike Led Zeppelin, however, The Who would not mime to pre-recorded portions of their concerts. They would perform the songs live in the studio. For those interested, I previously covered Led Zeppelin's Shepperton sessions in much greater detail on the channel. With The Song Remains the Same reportedly earning millions worldwide, the idea of preserving a major rock band like The Who on film suddenly carried enormous artistic and commercial potential. While the project would take a couple of years to complete, it ultimately set the wheels in motion to preserve Keith Moon's unique drumming for posterity, almost as if they sensed how the future would unfold. As we will see, The Kids Are Alright was the very thing that kept The Who going. The band partnered with Shepperton Studios by investing nearly £500,000 into leasing sound stages and purchasing vital filmmaking equipment for rental use. August 1977, the documentary film crew shot Moon at his Malibu home for exclusive insights into his life and antiques. This included a scene with Ringo Starr where the two bearded legends exchanged ideas, a moment in time filled with British humor. Unlike Bonham's home sequence in The Song Remains the Same, Keith's footage included a scene at a local Malibu restaurant involving a stripper and cake. Life in the fast lane, take it or leave it, Moon style. Weeks later, the Rolling Stones' 10th anniversary special was shot in Hollywood. Keith shared his histrionic perspective on hotels, room service, and using hotel rooms as drum kits. The man was in concert mode all the time. He turned 31 that month. By September 1977, Keith Moon left California for good. He moved back to London. He shaved his beard and tried once again to quit alcohol and everything at once, yet his wild behavior continued. How could he stop being himself? Punk rock had arrived and he embraced it. Punk felt like watching their sons carry on the rebel flame. There were no signs of The Who going back on the road, but recording of their 8th studio album had begun at the band's own facility, Rampart Studios, in South London. Who Are You faced many problems from the get-go, including concerns on Keith's drumming skills. The result of a long time away from the stage and his time in LA couldn't be ignored. But he soon got his groove back by the time The Who played the Gaumont State Theatre in London on December 15th. Moon looked heavier and puffier. The band played a 15-song setlist in a show that was put together by the documentary crew to capture vital footage on their hits, including the still unreleased classic, Who Are You? Carefully lit, it shows the band from all angles. Technically speaking, their only concert from 1977. A rare gem to appreciate their greatness, while the time clock on Keith's life kept ticking. That same month, American athlete Keith Moon passed away in a plane crash. British Keith Moon had 8 months and 23 days left. April 1978. After 4 studios and 7 months of hard work, The Who finished the long recording process for Who Are You? Moon attended movie premiere parties, and from the outside, he looked like he was having the time of his life. But there was growing tension within the band on Keith's lifestyle. Attempts were made to steer him into sobriety for good. Pete Townsend got Keith a new apartment in London that had belonged previously to singer Harry Nilsson. Harry knew The Who from way back, but he even thought this was a bad idea. Nilsson tried to talk them out of it. Ellen Naomi Cohen, better known as Mama Cass Elliot, had passed away in that very apartment from a heart attack in 1974 at the age of 32. The flat seemed cursed, but Townsend believed lightning wouldn't strike the same place twice. The Who's documentary crew got their cameras ready one last time for the 2 most important shooting dates in our story. May 1978 had the band at Rampart Studios filming a promo video for Who Are You? Keith's last visit to a recording studio is nothing short of spectacular. One last glimpse at a legend at work in pristine picture quality. Keith had his headphones strapped to his head and performed for the camera. His red shirt stood out big time. Red, the color of passion. He was the secret element that made it work like a child at heart. There was one final event for Moon, his last performance with The Who, May 25th, 1978, Shepperton Studios. The band played a 12-song set and only 2 performances made final cut on their documentary. Won't Get Fooled Again and the timeless anthem Baba O'Reilly, fittingly and hauntingly appropriate. Keith dressed in white, headphones strapped to his head again, quite possibly the greatest live footage casual and hardcore fans of The Who could ever ask for. Astonishing detail, a VIP access into their world. This is what the band was all about. Little did they know it would become a bittersweet conclusion to the 14-year journey of Daltrey, Entwistle, Townsend and Moon. This scene with the lasers sums it up forever. One of Britain's finest bands. A photo was taken the next day at Shepperton Studios. It becomes the album cover for Who Are You? Keith sits on a chair that reads, "Not to be taken away," but he would. Keith Moon makes his final television appearance, this time on the other side of the Atlantic, New York City. The program, Good Morning America. Wearing a bright red shirt, Keith looked tired, older, but surprisingly controlled. He answered questions calmly, even admitting there were days where he finally felt like he was getting a grip on life. The contrast between Pete Townsend and Keith Moon remained striking. One grounded, the other still performing for the room.
Oh, if only this was brand new.
Do you think you'll be together 10 or 15 years from now? Is it possible, Keith?
Yeah, I think in some form or another we will be. The projects that we've got in hand at present, we've got a film studio that we're working on, and we're making films and producing our own films. We won't be on the road as The Who, but we'll still be The Who.
And working together.
I don't know about that. I mean, I don't know whether either Keith or I are interested in being businessmen, but it's part of the media that we're involved in. There are films in our career now. You know, we've got a film coming out in December, which is an autobiographical film called Kids Are Alright, which we've produced ourselves.
But Keith was not alright. He still battled alcohol withdrawal symptoms, so a doctor prescribed medication intended to ease the process. A sedative hypnotic drug in the hands of Moon. He was warned not to exceed 3 pills a day to battle the urge to have a drink. The risk of a fatal overdose was very real. Rock and roll had seen similar tragedies earlier in the decade. By August 21st, Who Are You? Had been released in both the UK and the United States, to mostly positive reviews, though some critics questioned the band's changing direction. Orchestration, more prominent synthesizers, and modern production choices polarized parts of the rock community. Even the title track drew criticism for its repetitive chorus, though it was undeniably one of the strongest songs The Who ever recorded. In less than a month, tragedy would completely reshape how the album was viewed, or at least soften the sharpened knives of music journalists. All this while midnight screenings of Tommy continued playing across the United States. Paul McCartney hosted a party at Peppermint Park on September 6th, Keith and his girlfriend among the guests. Then, around midnight on September 7th, Keith and Annette attended the London premiere of The Buddy Holly Story, a film about another musician whose life ended far too soon. The couple later returned to the apartment. Keith woke up at around 7:30 in the morning, had a meal, and went back to bed. By 4 p.m., he still hadn't woken up. Annette checked on him. Keith was rushed to the hospital, but there was nothing doctors could do. He passed away at the age of 32. The cause of death was determined to be an overdose of the sedative hypnotic drug. He had taken 32 pills. The Kids Are Alright premiered in June 1979, earning $1.5 million at the box office against a budget of $2 million. The soundtrack peaked at number 8 on the Billboard charts. Every scene in the film featuring Keith Moon became an unintended tribute to his legacy. What began as a film project about The Who slowly transformed into a final document of the band's classic lineup. There was nothing left to say. They had done it all. The cameras captured the epilogue like no rock documentary before it, forever hovering over every later incarnation of The Who. Their dear Moon, the one and only Moon the Loon, simply Keith.